Bowman Library with a whole new middle grade book spotlight. So our theme for this week is on the ocean. We are taking a look at books that take place on the ocean. We have a great collection of some fiction and some nonfiction, and not just everything is pirates. Okay, just because you think it's on the ocean doesn't mean it has to be pirates. So let's get started with 6 titles that are about on the ocean. So our first one is the Dagger Quick. So 12-year-old Christopher, who goes by Kiddo, is training to be a barrel maker in the year 1678. But what he really wants to be, though, what he really wants to do is to be a sailor. But he's told he can't because he has a club foot. Instead of his foot facing forward, it's off to the side. So when his long-lost uncle appears, the infamous pirate Captain William Quick, his life quickly spins out of control. As his father ends up dead, the rest of his family is kidnapped by a rival pirate named John Morris, and Kiddo finds himself now on his uncle's crew in order to save the rest of his family and to avenge his father's death, although Kiddo having his own secrets as well. Not knowing who to trust through this whole adventure, this non-stop action-packed story, is one that will keep you on your toes as well as guessing the whole time with many twists and turns. There is a sequel, so you will want to read that one as soon as you are done with this one, The Dagger Quick. Victory by Susan Cooper. So Molly is 11 years old. She's living in present day, just recently having to move from London, from Connecticut, and she's incredibly homesick. When Molly starts exploring the house, though, she finds this piece of flack, and it's tucked into this old book. And as she's touching it and trying to figure out what's going on with it, she starts to have these strange visions about a boy in the past. We are then, as readers, we learn that the visions are about a boy named Sam who is 11 years old, but he's also living in 1803 and is on board the HMS Victory serving in the Royal Navy. Throughout the story, you go back and forth between Molly and Sam as Molly comes to terms with her father's death and living in a totally new place, and Sam as he's fighting in these brutal sea battles, just hoping to stay alive. Not for the faint of heart, as Sam's descriptions are vivid and they paint an actual, accurate picture of what life was like during a ship battle, complete with smells and sounds. This book is a fast read as you will want to not put it down because you want to know what happens to Sam and if he's going to survive and how their stories end up intertwining. This is Victory by Susan Cooper. Keeper by Kathy Applett. So Keeper is 10 years old and she's having a really, really bad day. It is so bad that she decides that she's going to go look for her mother, who has not been around since she was 3 years old. Keeper knows, though, the real reason why her mother isn't around, or she really believes the reason why her mother isn't around, is because her mother is a mermaid. And she decides that her mother's the only person who can give her advice to get out of this really bad day she's having. So she goes out to sea in the Gulf of Mexico in a rowboat, and she's going to take it further than she's ever taken it before, and she needs to do it alone. It's important that she does this so that way, again, her mother can give her advice on what to do, and the only person that she's willing to bring with her is her dog, who's her best friend. And you will then be along with this journey with Keeper as she's rowboating on the Gulf of Mexico, trying to figure out what actually is really going on with her life and if she can find her mother, who she really thinks is a mermaid. You will be along with her as she figures out what family really is and what it means to her. If you like your realistic fiction with a touch of some magical realism, then this is one that you will thoroughly enjoy. Keeper. Sos Titanic. So, an historical fiction take on one of the most famous ships and disasters in history. First class on the Titanic is 15-year-old Barry O'Neill, and he boards to go in order to join his parents in New York City after living at his boarding school in London. But at the same time, we also then meet Johnny and Frank Flynn, who are also going to be traveling on the Titanic, but they're not in first class. They're down in third class, or what's known as steerage. And they're traveling with their sister, Pegan, and everything sets off, well, we know where this is headed. I mean, if you know the story history of the Titanic, you know where our story is heading. You're going to have to figure out what goes on with all of our characters as that fateful night comes when the Titanic hits the iceberg, and you'll be wanting to know what happens to each of them, who's going to survive, who's not going to survive. But it also has some great descriptions on how it was to be on board the Titanic, no matter what level you were on. SOS Titanic. A nonfiction book. This is Pirates and Shipwrecks by Tom McCarthy. So this book is filled with 5 true stories of shipwrecks and pirate crews from throughout history. Some are ones that you may have heard of before, but such as like the pirate Barbarossa, but there's others in here, and what I love about this book is that there are stories that you will hear for the first time ever, and they will shock and stun you, and you might even be a little like horrified or grossed out when you learn what these stories actually were like. Pirates, you know, they took on each other, there was mutinies in the crew, they had shipwrecks, it was every person for themselves. Some of the stories actually even feature female pirates, and female pirates really did exist, while others are about how they would like shipwreck and they would end up having to run for their lives to avoid being eaten by animals or other people. And yeah, there's even a story in here, and this is something you don't think about, but again, it actually really happened. There's a pirate crew that they decide they're going to go to Antarctica, because pirates even went to cold places. They weren't just in warm places like we think. You'll love each story. You'll become a pirate and shipwreck expert. Make sure you pick up Pirates and Shipwrecks. And our last one for this week is Ghost Liners by Robert Ballard. And you know, if you don't know who Robert Ballard is, you're in for a treat, because Robert Ballard is this amazing scientist and adventurer. He's all about finding stuff underwater. That's where his realm is that he explores with incredible technology. He's the one who finally found Titanic, the one that we just talked about. He found the actual Titanic ship on the bottom of the ocean floor. He's the person who can say that he did that. What this book does, though, is he takes a look at 5 different ships which have been lost at sea due to one situation or another, and they have since been found deep in the ocean. They are the Empress of Ireland, the Titanic, the Lusitania, the Andrea Doria, and the Britannic. But what I love about this book is it's filled with primary photos. Like, look at this, for example. Like, this is how the Titanic looks now. Like, it's so, like, yeah, like we have actual photos of how these ships look under the water, where they've been for like many years, some over 100 years at this point. But it's filled with, again, primary photos, descriptions, explanations, stories from survivors on what really happened, because they were survivors on these ships and they get to tell their stories. If you love history, this is a unique book at what really happened and provides a snapshot in time as told by someone who really knows his stuff and what he's doing. This is Ghost Liners. So these are just 6 of the books that we have here that take place on the ocean or about, you know, things in the ocean or anything like that. So we encourage you to come on out, either check out one of these, or we can help you find whatever perfect book you are looking for, whether it's on the ocean or off the ocean. So come on down to the library, and we will be here to help you. I hope you tune back next week when we have a whole new middle grade book spotlight, and I hope you have a great week.